Hey, what's up, Sabscribers? It's your girl Sab. Oh my gosh. So this is episode 2 of Suffering of Silence, I think. So today I just wanted to kind of talk about just a few things that have just been on my mind lately, and I hope that it helps other people. I hope it resonates with someone out there. I wanted to kind of keep it as light and as positive and cheerful as I can. Um, I don't want to dive too deeply into the darkness of what could come of this podcast yet. Um, but today I just wanted to talk a bit about rejection and also just the idea of, I guess, failing or trying until you fail, right? So I had a lot of changes in my mindset lately, um especially in the last few months, right? Like, I had to remind myself that the things that I'm doing, the things that I want to achieve, and the direction I want to take my life is not a direction that most, I guess, quote unquote, normal people would typically idealize or I mean, I guess it's always a concept to people, right? Like, the life that I want to have is always, it's something that people want to see or they want to get or achieve in their life, but they never are willing to go for it, right? So I had to remind myself that I can't always take advice from every single person. And it's no offense to anyone who does give me advice. It's like, I hear you, I see you, I get your point of view, but at the same time, I have to trust my intuition. I have to trust myself and believe in myself enough um, that whatever it is that I desire, that I want to achieve, is certainly possible. Um, so I just wanted to. I think I had posted about this on my Instagram story. Um, but I think every time that I travel, I take a trip. Obviously, there's like a new spark that comes within me. I love traveling. I love meeting new people. I love doing new things. Um, but there's something that just sparks in me, that this motivation and this desire, this drive, to see people living out the dreams that they've always desired. And I don't really care about, like, to me what matters is what happens in real life, right? Social media means fucking nothing if you're not who you actually are in person, right? It's not to say that every single day isn't a constant struggle to feel confident and comfortable in who I am and the person that I know I am. It's obviously a challenge every single day, especially when you've been through trauma and you've had some low self-esteem, or shit, if I even had any self-esteem at certain points in my life. You know, it's hard to recover from it, but I finally gotten to a point in my life where I just don't give a fuck anymore. And it's not to say it in an offensive way, because me not giving a fuck isn't anything personal against anyone else. It's just a me thing. Like, it's personal to me. I no longer care how I'm perceived. I no longer give a fuck how stupid I might look being vulnerable and being this true and authentic version of me. Or, you know, it's amazing that people, like, I don't judge people for wanting to be mysterious or wanting to keep certain aspects of who they are out of out of the public eye or whatever. I don't give a fuck. And, like, that's just who I've always been. And for a hot little second there, for a big part of my life, I felt like I needed to be perceived in a certain way, and I needed to protect certain aspects of myself and who I am. And I forgot that that's just not who I am. Like, I'm not a person who switches up how they act. I'm just as silly, just as goofy on the internet or just, I should say, I'm just as feral as I am on the internet as I am in person, because I don't care. I don't care. It's just a part of who I am. I don't give a fuck to be aesthetic and like be this mysterious person all the effing time. Like, who I am is just, I just like being me. I just like being silly. I like being goofy. I like talking, clearly. If I didn't like to talk, I probably wouldn't have a fucking podcast. But, like it's not to say that I don't keep certain aspects of my life private, because I absolutely do. There's things that people will never know. There's things that I keep to myself, or I only speak to it, I only speak upon it with my friends, or my close friends, I should say. And I completely get it. Everyone has their right to their own privacy. And I absolutely understand that as I open up the conversation of experiences that I've been through, and just as I begin to show more of myself to the world, there's obviously there's an opportunity for people to judge me and perceive me and feel like they have some justification to my business and to my life. So I totally get that, and I respect that not everyone is is okay with that, and that's everyone's choice, right? Now, like I've said and I emphasize all the time, I the reason I speak on these topics and I talk about my experiences, negative and positive, I I have these conversations because I want to open up a community for individuals who feel alone in some of their darkest times. But I'm also starting to realize that you're not only you're not always feeling lonely when you're going through the worst shit. Like, I feel like I've also felt so lonely in my best moments. And when I say some of my best moments, I guess I would even consider like some of my best times being like when I'm traveling, and I think I'm my best version when I'm in, an element that I'm comfortable with. Like when I'm meeting new people, because that's, I don't know, I just enjoy talking to people. I enjoy meeting people. Networking is just really one of the things that I feel like I'm kind of good at, and I enjoy doing it. I'm very comfortable doing it. Or when it comes to expressing myself through the way I dress, and my clothes, and my style, and obviously through my podcast, like that is when I feel my best, right? And even in those moments, like I feel the loneliest, because I feel like a lot of what I'm doing is so, maybe it's just the people that I've been used to or surrounded with, because there's so many. This is not to say it in an offensive way, but there are so many people in the world who are just more comfortable with living this. I guess it's hard because I constantly have my whole life been used to comparing myself to what others are doing, or how other people live their lives, or I'm comparing my achievements to what other people have achieved as well, rather than just looking at myself and thinking like how perfect I am already, because there is no other me to compare to. And I should never give a fuck enough to compare myself to anybody else, because nobody's living the same journey that I'm living. Nobody's living this evolution other than me. Everyone has their own individualized experience. And this sounds so corny, but that's what makes it more exciting, is that we all have our own individual experiences. But all in all, like I don't know, I just wanted to kind of talk about how, I had to really get over the fear of rejection, and I'm still working through it. I'm absolutely still working through it, But rejection in all aspects of my life, whether it comes to, regardless of what an outcome is, like I shouldn't attach myself to a specific outcome of for any situation, and just live in the moment for the experience of it. And detaching myself from an IT, like from the outcome of things, can also contribute to just knowing and feeling more secure in myself, and knowing that like I'm going to be okay no matter what. And I also think about the fact that like I've already lived through, I mean, I don't know what's to come, right? Like I God knows what else is to come in my life. But I know for a fact that I've lived through some of the worst shit of my life already. Like I've I've lost my dad, I've lost my grandma, and I've literally survived one of the most traumatic and toxic relationships of my life. And I've literally lived through a stalker situation, continue to be stalked to this day, but I've lived through all of these things, and I'm it's obvious and it's clear to me more and more every single day how much more I need to appreciate the fact that I'm here. But there is obviously a reason that I'm here, and I'm creating those reasons and those opportunities for me to I don't know, I guess live the fullest life I possibly can live. I guess that's the easiest way I can say it, right? It sounds so corny and cheesy, but I'm I feel like I'm in a place of my evolution that it can help someone who is maybe just starting off in their journey or feeling really lost. I'm just as lost though, I'll be honest. I'm just living life however I feel is right for me. And I just don't care anymore what people think, and I just don't care anymore what, like, not that I don't care what the consequence, not that I don't care what the consequences are of my actions, because I absolutely still do care about that, and I do try to think about them before I do things. But you know, even with like a recent situation in my life, like I feel like I've just been in a place in the last few months, especially I've been doing things, I've been more adventurous about decisions and choices that I'm making in my life, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Because it's like, why would I continue to wait for the right time to live my life and just make the decisions a little less rationally, or do things differently, right? Like, why wait for change? And I had just been making a lot of choices and decisions that were just out of the ordinary for me, and I learned from it. I learned that, hey, I tried it. I know I didn't like it. I'm never going to do it again. And those that's a part of fucking life. Like, not even to shit on other people, but like, I mean, even to think about my own situation, right? Like, I got into that really toxic relationship, and I chose to stay. I kept choosing to stay for 5 years. And eventually I learned, it took a while, and there's a lot of contributing factors as to why it took a while, but I eventually learned that this just isn't right for me and this isn't what I want anymore. And I no longer will choose to put myself in that situation ever again. And we also have to think about the fact that there's a lot of people in the world who don't make those choices, who might decide to leave one abusive and toxic relationship and just get right into another. And it's not that I judge people for that, and it's not that I feel like I'm any better because I chose not to do that again, but it's just a different perspective and a different point of view and a different experience than mine, you know? And so having the compassion to see that and recognizing that I should be grateful for having the resilience that I have and being able to recognize when I know something's no longer right for me. So as my point of bringing that up was that, now I'm learning a lot quicker what I like and what I don't like. And I just had this conversation with someone that I met recently, from Houston, and she and I shared very similar experiences, and hopefully soon I will bring her on the show. But we talked about how we both experienced some very similar situations in a narcissistic, toxic, abusive relationship, and how now that we're out of those relationships, we are becoming more of ourselves. We are able to define exactly what we want and what we don't want. And when we're getting something we don't want, we are able to easily say no to it, and we're easily able to walk away from it, and we're just not taking no shit anymore because we've lived through accepting the bullshit time and time again, and we just no longer tolerate it anymore. So, I mean, and I'll say this, I'm still healing. I'm still working through those things, right? It's not like every single time I'm going to make the right choice and just say no. But in many occasions, I know that there's a level or an extremity of what I will not ever tolerate again. And that's not just in romantic relationships. That is in all aspects of my life, in every relationship in my life, whether it's friends and family. I just no longer will tolerate certain shit anymore because I understand how hard it took for me to get to this level of inner peace and happiness. And I don't sacrifice that for anybody anymore. So, part of that, like I said at the beginning of the episode, is about rejection. And it all ties together, right? Like, the more you're secure in what you know you want and what you and who you are, the less of the external world can affect you or bring you down. And it's not to say that rejection doesn't hurt, or that when things don't have a certain outcome that you would hope for, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt my feelings when it doesn't happen. It just means that I know I will have a quicker turnaround and I will have a quicker process to feeling okay again, you know? Because I'll be honest, like, I'm a person who I love deeply. I care for people deeply, and I go so hard. I go hella hard for anybody that I care about and anybody that I love. Even if you were just a small portion of my life at any point of my life, I had to some degree cared for you enough. And when I care for people, like I said, I care very deeply. I care very passionately. And I will never shame myself for that. And I used to feel so ashamed for developing those attachments and caring for people so much and allowing them to, like, to be vulnerable enough to allow them to actually hurt me, because I care so much for them. I, I used to want to be more closed off. Like, for a while, I thought I needed to be a villain. I thought I needed to be this cold-hearted bitch that didn't care enough for people, or that I needed to be, like, I just thought I needed to be an evil bitch. But then I recognized in myself recently that it's okay to be myself. It's okay to be the genuine, soft lover girl that you are. You can't I can't let anything or anyone change that about me. Even as many times as I get hurt, as many times as I might cry about something, as many times as I might feel the agony of how much I care for someone and for them to hurt me, it's okay. It's okay at the end of the day. because at least I know that I gave it all that I could. And this actually, as I talk about this, it reminds me of who I was as a younger version of me, like as and when I was, when I was much younger, like when I was a kid, I remember myself being such a very passionate person and like loving people so hard and still getting hurt for it, but still thinking like, damn, at least I loved my hardest. At least I gave it my all, you know? And I think I mean, it's obvious that I lost sight of it along this journey of life because I continued to get hurt. I continued to be jaded by some of the past experiences where they were negative experiences for being this loving, deep, passionate version of myself. And so I stopped wanting to become that person. I stopped wanting to still be this version of me that loves and feels compassion towards people, even when they hurt me. But having had realized that it's just because, I mean, it's a cold world, we know that. It doesn't mean that I have to change who I am. It doesn't mean that I have to be any different. I just have to be willing to accept the fact that I know I will get hurt for caring for someone as deeply as I do and loving someone as deeply as I do. I just have to be willing to accept the fact that I will be hurt from it, even if the outcome is, this person being in my life forever. There's always going to be, situations where you get hurt, even by some of the most genuine people in your life, right? Like you have to be willing to accept that hurt. You have to be willing to accept the fact that that's just inevitable. But are you going to change who you are and how you love people just because of it? It's not to say that, like, I can't show discernment when I'm supposed to. It's not like I'm just out here willy-nilly giving people like all my love and affection. But I definitely, when I love someone, I love them deeply. When I care for someone, I care deeply. And I'm not going to change that about me. I'm not going to be any different. I'm not going to be any less loud about how I care about people and when I care about someone. To a certain degree, I'll say. Because if you start to disrespect me and it starts to feel like you're trying to devalue me as a person, then that's a line I cannot allow you to cross. And that was actually a situation I experienced recently as well. I cared very deeply for someone. Actually, a lot of experiences like that recently, like where I've cared so much for people in my life, like friends that I've known for decades, and they did some disrespectful shit to me, or I felt that I felt that they took advantage of me in my most vulnerable situations. And I had to make the choice of just saying, hey, you know what? I love myself enough and I respect myself enough that I have to walk away. Even as much as I care for you and as compassionate as I can be, I don't know what you're fighting. I don't know what demons you're fighting and what you're going through. But unfortunately, I have to walk away. And it doesn't stop you from like caring about the person. It doesn't stop you. Well, I should say for me, it doesn't stop the fact that I do care passionate. Like I really do care for this person very deeply. And I want to see this person succeed. But it doesn't, I guess the only thing it really changes is the fact that I'm standing on my self respect and I just see you for who you are. Maybe I didn't see it before, but now I do. And you're just a different person to me, but I still care about you. I just have to keep you at a distance. And so I feel like I just went off on like a crazy tangent. But this all started with talking about rejection. But essentially, I just wanted to say that I will never change who I am and how I love people and how I care for people in my life. Um and I hope that in some way that those people do feel that from me. And the saddest part is that, a lot of people in my life have not, they don't, I feel like I've been underappreciated a lot, and most people don't feel that love or affection until my absence is felt. And it sucks. It sucks for them because I used to be a person that was super willing to like open back up to people and like give people a second chance. But like I said, I see now how hard I've had to work for my inner peace, and I'm not going to sacrifice that for anyone ever again. So, second chances may not be the same type of second chances I would give in the past. Um, I'm okay with keeping people at a distance, but you know, my self respect and my self love and my inner peace mean so much more to me. So much more to me. So, yeah, I say all this to say that, who cares what people think about you? Who cares if you're like, we live in this world where it's so much cooler to be edgier and to be mysterious and to be less vulnerable and to not show how deep and passionate you really are about your emotions and how you care for people. But I don't care anymore. I don't care about that. I don't care about being perceived in that way. I will always stay true to my feelings because for so long I've had to hide who I am. I've had to keep that version of me hidden and not be myself. And it's not just because of this toxic relationship I was in. It is, of course, from all the hurt and societal standards that I've had to follow or I felt like I needed to follow in order to quote unquote survive in society. But yeah, I mean, the reason for suffering of silence is because I'm so sick of suffering of silence, and silence being a number of things, silencing who I am and how I love people. And yeah, that's just what it is. So, all right. So, next episode, I hope to have the anonymous forum or whatever set up. I'm having a really difficult time choosing which I want. So I think I'm gonna just set it up. I'm gonna post about it on Instagram, on my Instagram stories and whatever, and then I'll probably put some on TikTok as well. So like y'all can feel free to submit some of your stories, some of your questions, some of your whatever. I'm gonna try and get through reading it as much as possible before the next episode in 2 weeks. But yeah, this was episode 2. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know I rambled on and on a lot, but I hope that it was motivational enough that you guys got the point of what I was trying to say. Um, so yeah, anonymous forum will be opening up soon. DMs are always open. I'll try to get through everything as quickly as I can, as best I can. But yeah, if there's any feedback, insight, questions, whatever, just hit me on Instagram. Again, my personal Instagram is _subscription. The podcast Instagram is Suffering of Silence Pod. Follow us on TikTok. Me. I said us. There is no us. There is no us yet. But follow me on TikTok, subscription, or the podcast TikTok, which is Suffering of Silence Pod. Yeah, love to hear your thoughts and love to hear your stories and experiences. And then soon we'll be releasing some episodes with our guest speakers. But I will talk to you guys soon. It's me, Sab, again. And this is another episode of Suffering of Silence. I'll talk to y'all later.